They thought they could erase us, wipe our past, our victories, even our names. But some things don't die. In the dark, our shadows still fight, and this time we remember. I was 12 when the sky went white. Not the kind of white you see on a bright day, but the kind that swallows shadows, erases edges, and makes you feel like you're standing inside a blank page. We didn't know it at the time, but that was the moment history died. Not in the poetic sense. Literally, every archive, every database, every printed record, gone in a synchronized pulse of light. The adults called it the silence. Later, whispers claimed it wasn't a natural disaster at all, but a strike from the archivists, the ones who came from beyond the Kuiper Belt, speaking in harmonics we couldn't reproduce. They didn't invade our cities, didn't drop bombs. They just erased us, or rather, the proof that we had ever been. A week later, the first signs of control began. School lessons vanished from our tablets. Encyclopedias became blank shells of their former selves. Even the names of our grandparents were gone from public records. It was like we were all orphans in an empty galaxy, untethered from any past. But here's the thing about humans. We remember. Not all of us. Not perfectly. But enough. Enough to keep a fragment, a detail, a story. We became the Whisper Network, passing memories mouth to ear in dark basements, in back alley bars, in the static hiss of old radio bands the archivists didn't know we could still use. My father was one of those memory carriers. He taught me names, real ones, not the sterilized ones the new systems gave us. He told me about wars we'd fought and won, even when the official channels claimed humanity had never fought a war. He described the music of Beethoven and the smell of a library, even though no such files existed anymore. Then one night, he didn't come home. The authorities said he had transitioned. That was the new euphemism for deleted. A person could be alive in the morning and gone by dinner. Their apartment reassigned. Their face no longer matching any public registry. No funeral. No mourning. That was the night I stopped being a child. I joined the underground 2 years later. Not the rebels you see in stories with flashy weapons and grand speeches. No, we were shadows. People who existed in the seams of the archivist's perfect machine, who carried memories in coded graffiti, who could swap identities like changing coats. The archivists had erased our history. But every day, we wrote it back in invisible ink. My handler was a woman named Marin. She was maybe 30, with eyes that looked like they'd seen centuries. She never spoke above a whisper and never stayed in one place for more than a night. Our past is our weapon, she told me during our first meet. They fear it more than bullets. Bullets kill bodies. Memory kills empires. We started with small strikes, reprogramming information cocks to display fragments of old books, smuggling data chips into trade convoys. But the archivists were not complacent. They sent pale agents, faceless, tall silhouettes with fluid movements that made your skin crawl. You never saw one unless they wanted to be seen. And if they saw you, your story ended. One night, Marin and I were in Sector 12, planting an archive seed, a hidden packet that would infect the city's network with recovered historical footage. The streets were empty, save for the neon hum of corporate propaganda screens. I was halfway through the data upload when Marin's hand tightened on my shoulder. "They're here," she whispered. I didn't need to ask who. I saw in the reflection of a storefront 2 pale agents, moving like shadows cast by something that wasn't quite human. Their heads tilted, listening not to sound but to memory. That's how they hunted. You couldn't hide in silence. You could only hide by becoming someone without a past. "Abort?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, we finish." And so, heart pounding like war drums, I pressed the final key. The archive seed activated. Somewhere deep in the network, humanity's stolen history began to breathe again. That was the night I realized the war wasn't about soldiers or guns. It was about who got to decide what was true. And if we lost, we wouldn't just die. We would have never existed at all. The upload finished. The pale agent stopped moving. And then, slowly, both of their heads turned toward us. We ran. We didn't stop running until the city's neon died behind us. Sector 12's bright propaganda screens faded into the rust-orange haze of the outer district, what people call the ghost cities. No official maps marked these zones. No authority cameras watched here, not because they couldn't, but because no one wanted to see what was left. We ducked into a shattered transit tunnel, lungs burning, the metallic tang of dust coating my tongue. The pale agents hadn't followed. At least not yet, but I knew better than to think we were safe. They didn't chase like predators. They hunted like archivists collecting specimens. Patient, methodical, inevitable. Marin slumped against a support column, hand pressed to her side. That's when I noticed the thin, dark smear on her jacket. "You're bleeding," I said. "It's nothing," she lied, wincing. "We can't stop now. Not here." Her voice echoed in the hollow tunnel, the sound swallowed by the silence that had earned these ruins their name. The ghost cities were the first places hit during the silence. Massive urban centers stripped not just of history, but of people. Whole districts had been transitioned in a single night. No bodies, no wreckage, just empty homes, running power, and food still on the tables, but no one left to eat it. We moved deeper into the underground until we reached what looked like an old maintenance room. Rusted pipes lined the walls, and the faint hum of an emergency generator powered a few flickering lamps. It smelled of oil, metal, and old rain. This was where I first heard the voices. Not real voices, at least not in the physical sense. It was like a vibration in my skull, faint and rhythmic, almost like someone whispering a language I almost recognized but couldn't quite place. Marin didn't react, so I said nothing. Later, I would learn the truth. We patched her wound with what supplies we had, sealant foam, nanogel, a strip of synth cloth from my pack. All the while, her eyes kept scanning the shadows, like she expected the walls themselves to move. "You ever wonder," I said quietly, "why they don't just kill us? Why erase everything? Wouldn't it be easier to burn it all and be done?" Her jaw tightened. "That's the thing about the archivists," she said. "They don't think in terms of winning. They think in terms of editing. The authority is just their pen. We're not at war in their eyes. We're a draft they don't like. That sank in like ice water. So they're rewriting us?" "Not us," she said. "Everything. The past, the present, the future. Humanity isn't just being erased. We're being replaced. They're building a version of our history where we were never more than a footnote." We left the tunnel before sunrise. The streets above were covered in a thick blanket of dust that muted every footstep. Towering skyscrapers leaned like dead trees, glassless windows staring out like black eyes. Hollow ads flickered to life in the distance, displaying smiling faces of approved citizens who didn't exist outside the network. I stopped dead when I saw it, a mural stretching across an entire building wall. It was crude, painted in ash and soot, but unmistakable. A human figure standing before a burning star, their shadow stretching across the city. Marin froze too. "That wasn't here last time," she murmured. Beneath the mural were 3 words, written in an old Terran dialect no authority scanner could translate. "Shadows still fight. We weren't the only ones left." Somewhere in these dead streets, other memory carriers, other fighters, were alive, leaving marks in the world the archivists couldn't scrub clean. It should have been hope, but it felt like bait, because an hour later, the voices in my head grew louder, and I realized something. They weren't whispers. They were footsteps, and they were getting closer. Marin grabbed my arm. Move. Now. We ran through the empty avenues, every sound magnified in the hollow city. The pale agents didn't need to be seen to be deadly. You could feel them, like the air itself was bending around them. Then, without warning, the ground beneath us cracked with a sound like glass breaking underwater. The dust collapsed into a sinkhole, and we fell. I hit cold metal hard enough to see stars. My vision swam. Above, the street sealed itself, a perfect circle of light, shrinking until it was only darkness. When my eyes adjusted, I realized we weren't in a sewer or a bunker. We were in a vault. Rows of crystalline pillars stretched in every direction, glowing faintly from within. Each one contained a moving image, frozen moment of laughter, music, war, sunsets, memories. Human memories. Our stolen history. Marin stared, her voice shaking for the first time since I'd met her. They didn't delete it, she whispered. They kept it. And then the voices spoke again, clear this time, and in a language I now understood. You've been found. The voice didn't echo in the vault. It pressed into my mind like a cold hand. Marin and I froze between the glowing pillars, our shadows stretching long over the polished floor. You heard that, right? I whispered. Her eyes flicked to mine. Yes, which means they're here. The crystalline pillars hummed faintly, each one containing a moving fragment of human life. A child blowing out birthday candles, soldiers raising a battered flag, lovers dancing under rain. The images were perfect, crisp, untouched. My chest tightened. These were the things we'd thought gone forever. The archivists hadn't destroyed our history. They had collected it. I moved closer to a pillar. My own reflection stared back at me over the image of a boy on a swing set. There was something wrong about the way the boy's eyes followed me, like he could see me. Don't touch it, Marin hissed. Too late. My fingers brushed the crystal. The vault dissolved. One heartbeat, I was standing beside Marin. The next, I was inside the memory. Sunlight warm on my face, wind carrying the faint smell of grass. The boy on the swing looked up at me and smiled. But when he spoke, it wasn't his voice. We remember for you, the voice said, the same one that found us. We hold the truth so you may be corrected. The sky darkened. The grass turned to ash. And then the boy's smile twisted into something that didn't belong to a child. I yanked my hand back, gasping. They're not preserving these for us, I said. They're editing them. Marin's jaw tightened. Worse, they're training them. It didn't make sense until I looked closer at the other pillars. In each one, the human faces were subtly off, posture straighter, eyes brighter, movement smoother. Every imperfection of reality erased. The archivists weren't archiving history. They were rehearsing a version of it they preferred. And when they were done, they'd release it into the network to overwrite our memories entirely. The voice came again, stronger this time. You do not belong here. Return to your assigned narrative. The crystalline light around us shifted, the pillars slowly turning. And between them, tall shapes began to move, pale agents gliding toward us without sound. Marin pulled a small device from her belt, a palm-sized disc etched with glowing lines. She pressed it into my hand. Get this out, she said. What is it? Raw memory. Unedited. I don't know how long it will survive outside the vault, but if it does, she didn't finish. Her gaze was fixed on the agents. I knew that look. It was the same one my father had the night he never came home. No, I said, we leave together. You can't fight them. Not here. The vault is theirs. Before I could argue, the nearest agent stepped into the light. Up close, I saw it had no face, just a smooth surface like porcelain, reflecting my own terrified expression. It tilted its head, as if studying me. Then it spoke, not aloud, but inside my mind. "You are a dangerous draft." My knees buckled under the pressure of the thought. The disc in my hand pulsed, syncing with my heartbeat. Marin moved, not away from me, but toward the agents. A flash of steel, a ripple of shadow. I wanted to shout, but the words wouldn't come. The vault itself seemed to be pulling me backward, toward a widening crack in the floor. "Marin!" I screamed. Her voice reached me over the crushing psychic noise. "Run, and remember..." The floor gave way. I fell through darkness, the crystalline light shrinking above me until it winked out entirely. I landed hard on cold stone. My ribs screamed in protest, but I was alive. Around me, the air was damp, metallic, laced with the smell of stagnant water. It took a moment to realize where I was. The old underlines, pre-silent subway tunnels, long sealed and forgotten. The disc was still in my hand, faintly glowing. I was alone. For a while, I just sat there in the dark. The last image of Marin burned into my mind. I didn't know if she was dead, captured, or worse, rewritten. But I knew one thing. The archivists didn't just fear our memories. They wanted to own them. And now, for the first time, I held a piece they couldn't control. Somewhere in the darkness, water dripped in a steady rhythm. Only it wasn't random. I counted the beats. 3. Pause. 2. Pause. 4. It was a code. Human code. I wasn't alone after all. The dripping stopped. For a moment, the silence pressing so thick I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Then came 3 sharp knocks from somewhere down the tunnel. 3. Pause. 2. Pause. 4. I stood, my hand tightening around the glowing disc Marin had given me. My legs protested every step, but I followed the sound. The underlines were a labyrinth, century-old tunnels running beneath the ghost cities, built back when humans still thought they ruled their own future. My boots splashed through shallow puddles, the air heavy with rust and mold. Every so often, I passed the skeletal remains of an old transit car, its windows black, its seats covered in dust so thick it looked like snow. The knocks came again, this time louder, followed by the faint scrape of something metal against stone. I turned a corner and froze. A door stood at the end of the passage, an old maintenance hatch, painted with faded red circle. The circle had been broken by 3 slash marks, deliberate and sharp. I knocked back. 3. Pause. 2. Pause. 4. The door opened a fraction, revealing a pair of eyes, sharp, wary, and very much alive. "Who sent you?" a voice demanded. "Marin," I said. The door opened fully, and I stepped inside. The space beyond was nothing like the crumbling tunnels. Warm light spilled from strings of old bulbs, and the air smelled faintly of cooked food and machine oil. There were people here, dozens of them, moving with quiet purpose between long tables covered in maps, scavenged tech, and crates of supplies. "This is the deep signal," the man with the sharp eyes said, leading me inside. "You can call me Cade. We're what's left of the cities that don't officially exist." I wanted to ask how they'd survived this long, but my gaze caught on a massive wall at the far end of the chamber. It was covered in photographs, drawings, and handwritten notes. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Faces stared back at me from the paper, some smiling, some solemn, some clearly taken without the subject knowing. "You're keeping records," I said. "Someone has to," Cade replied. "The archivists don't just erase the past. They rewrite people. They call it correction. We call it what is, murder in slow motion." He walked me over to a smaller table where an old hollow projector hummed. With a tap, it flickered to life, showing a before and after image of the same woman. In the first, she looked tired but warm, lines of laughter etched around her eyes. In the second, her face was smoother, her expression fixed in a placid, empty smile. "That's not just an image edit," I said. "No," Kate said grimly. "It's her. They take someone, strip them down in the vaults, and rebuild them to fit the official history. They keep the shell, but the person is gone. Every smile, every scar, every defiance, wiped. A chill ran through me. Marin, I pulled the glowing disc from my pocket. She gave me this before they took her." Cade's eyes widened. "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" "Only that it's raw memory. Unedited." He took it carefully, almost reverently, and slotted it into a reader. The room dimmed as the image appeared. A grainy, unpolished scene of soldiers in battered armor raising a torn flag over a smoldering battlefield. Real humans. Real history. "This," Cade said, his voice low, "is a weapon. Not like a gun. Stronger. If we can get this onto the open network, people will remember. And once they start remembering, they'll start questioning. That's the one thing the archivists can't fight." The moment felt heavy, almost sacred, until the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Cade's expression hardened. "They've found us." I looked toward the entrance, my pulse spiking. "The pale agents?" "No," Cade said grimly. "Worse. The mirrors." I'd never heard the term, but the way everyone in the room froze told me enough. "They don't just hunt you," Cade said, grabbing a rifle from the wall. "They take your face, your voice, your memories, and wear them like they're their own. You can't fight them if you don't know which one's real." A scream echoed from the far side of the chamber. Then another. The bulbs flickered again, and I saw them. 2 figures stepping into the light, each wearing the exact same face. My face. 2 of me stood in the chamber center. Same height, same clothes, same heartbeat. If the pounding in my chest was any indication, they even breathed in sync. Around us, the deep signal fighters froze, unsure where to point their weapons. The air tasted like metal and fear. "Which one's you?" Cade hissed. I started. "Don't listen," both of us shouted at the same time. My own voice cut through the air like a knife. The other me even tilted his head the way I did when I was trying to think under pressure. It was like staring into a mirror that didn't just copy you, it understood you. The mirrors didn't just look like you. They knew you. They could rifle through your memories like flipping pages in a book, rearranging them if they wanted. That's why the archivists use them for infiltration, because they could replace you without anyone realizing it had happened. One of the fighters, nervous, too young for the lines of exhaustion on his face, raised his rifle at me on the left. "That's the fake," he said. The left me's eyes widened. "If I'm the fake, then how do I know you carved your sister's name into the butt of that rifle after she—" The boy's finger twitched on the trigger. He lowered the rifle, eyes wide. "How did you—" Cade swore. "They've already read one of you." The right me, that is, me, stepped forward, keeping my hands open. "Cade, you brought me in. You saw me come through the tunnels." "Aye." The left me lunged. The movement was too fast, too sharp, like water snapping into a new shape. Cade's shout rang out, but the mirror was already on me. Its hands were cold. Not skin cold. Deep cold, like vacuum. I felt my memories slipping, being pulled. Childhood. My father's voice. Marin's face. No. I slammed my forehead into its nose. The pain was mine, but the surprise was mutual. It stumbled back, hissing in a voice that was half mine, half something else entirely. "Don't shoot the wrong one." Cade barked. He tossed me a short blade from his belt. "Cut it. See if it bleeds." I slashed low. The blade connected, and instead of blood, the wound spilled light, a liquid glow that hissed on contact with the air. The room erupted into motion. More mirrors were pouring through the hatch. Copies of Cade, of the fighters, of people I didn't recognize. The chamber became a blur of identical faces and stolen voices. We fought in chaos. The trick was the light. It was the only thing they bled The only proof they weren't human. I ducked, parried, cut. Each strike made the mirror's form flicker like a corrupted hologram. But there were too many. Cade! I shouted. The disc! He tossed it toward me, but a mirror caught it midair. My mirror. It smiled at me, that same crooked grin I saw in every reflection. Then it ran. I tore after it, shoving through the melee, lungs burning with each breath. The mirror darted into the tunnels, moving with the same speed and stride I would have used. Every turn it took, I would have taken. Every escape route I considered, it knew first. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just stealing my memories. It was anticipating them. The only way to beat it was to do something I would never do. We reached a section of tunnel where the floor dropped into a deep maintenance shaft. The mirror stopped, reading my hesitation like a book. The jump was suicide. I'd never risk it. So I jumped. The wind roared in my ears. My knees screamed as I hit a half-collapsed scaffold halfway down. The mirror followed. Too late, realizing I had landed on a section that gave way instantly under the combined weight. It fell. The sound it made wasn't human. The disc tumbled free, clattering against the scaffold. I grabbed it and climbed, every muscle shaking. By the time I made it back to the chamber, the fighting had slowed. The floor was littered with fading mirror bodies, their stolen faces dissolving into smoke. But the deep signal had taken losses. Too many. Cade looked at the disc in my hand, then at me. You kept it. Barely, I said. He nodded, his jaw tight. Then we still have a chance. But if they sent the mirrors, they know exactly who you are now, and they'll send something worse next. I glanced at the photographs on the wall. Somewhere in there was Marin's face. I wasn't going to let them rewrite her. We left the deep signal hideout before dawn. The tunnels felt different now. Heavier, like the air itself knew the archivists were closing in. The survivors who remained didn't speak much. Too many faces were missing. Cade moved ahead with 2 scouts, their weapons slung, but ready. I kept one hand on the glowing disc, hidden inside my jacket. Losing it now wasn't an option. Where are we going? I asked. To the Ascendant Node, Cade said without looking back. It's the Archivist's core transmitter for the sector. They'll push their next rewrite through it. I frowned. Rewrite. They call it the final edit. Every memory vault, every correction, every approved version of history, they're going to merge it all into one master narrative. When it's done, every human mind connected to the network will remember only what the archivists want. And the rest, they'll forget themselves. Completely. Names, families, even that we were ever free. We emerged from the underlines into the outer flats, a sprawling wasteland of cracked concrete and rusted machinery. In the distance, the Ascendant Node rose like a black spear into the clouds, wrapped in a faint lattice of shifting light. It looked less like a building and more like an idea given physical form. We get the disk in there. It'll flood the network with raw memory before they can lock it down. Cade said, if it works, people will start to remember again. And if it doesn't? He didn't answer. We traveled by night, skirting abandoned transport roads and collapsed overpasses. The pale agents were out here, patrolling in silence, their featureless faces reflecting moonlight. But they weren't our only problem. On the second night, I woke to the sound of a voice whispering my name. At first, I thought it was Cade. But when I opened my eyes, there was no one there, just a faint shimmer in the air. The same cold presence I'd felt in the vault. You are already ours, it said inside my mind. Give us the memory. You don't need to fight. I gritted my teeth. Not yours. Not ever. The presence withdrew, but not before leaving one last thought like a splinter in my skull. We have her. The next day we found proof. A flickering hollow broadcast played across a half-collapsed billboard, a propaganda reel of the new dawn. At first it was the usual. Smiling citizens, clean streets, the promise of a brighter future. Then she appeared. Marin, but not the Marin I knew. Her eyes were too bright. Her smile was too wide. And when she spoke, her voice carried the smooth cadence of someone who had nothing left to lose, because they had nothing left to remember. Cade put a hand on my shoulder. It's a correction. She's gone. No, I said. She's still in there. They don't delete people, remember? They overwrite them. That means the real Marin is still somewhere inside. Even if that's true, Cade said, we can't risk the mission for one person. I looked at him, the weight of the disc in my hand. She's not just one person. She's the one who got this to me. If we win and she's still a prisoner in her own head, then we didn't win enough. That night, we reached the perimeter of the Ascendant node. The ground here was littered with fragments of old machines, their surfaces etched with strange geometric patterns. Archivist glyphs. The air buzzed faintly, the same way it had in the vault, and the sky above shimmered with the lattice field surrounding the node. Through the scope of his rifle, Cade studied the guards. Pale agents. Too many for a straight fight. Then we don't fight straight, I said. He gave me a sideways look. You have something in mind? Yeah, I let them take me in. It was insane. It was reckless. It was exactly the kind of thing the mirror version of me would never predict. Because it was my choice, not something pulled from my memories. The plan was simple. I'd get captured, brought inside the node, and find Marin. The deep signal team would use the distraction to breach the outer field and reach the control chamber. I'd meet them there with a disk. Simple plans have a way of turning complicated fast. I stepped into the open, hands raised. The pale agents saw me immediately. They didn't run. They didn't shout. They just moved, slow, deliberate, inevitable. When they reached me, their cold hands closed around my arms. And just before they dragged me through the field into the node, I looked back at Cade. He gave me the smallest of nods. Inside the lattice, the world changed. The air was heavy, thick with thought. The walls weren't made of metal. They were made of memory, shifting and rippling with stolen scenes. Faces I recognized and faces I didn't blurred past me. And then I saw her, Marin, standing perfectly still in a column of light, her eyes empty. The archivist's voice filled the space around me. Final edit begins now. The storm over the ruins wasn't weather. It was memory. Shards of light, flickering like broken film, bled down from the sky, each one carrying a scene from the past. Cities before they burned, oceans before they boiled, faces before they turned to ash. The enemy thought they had erased it all. They hadn't counted on us. We had reached the coordinates the Ghost Codex had given, buried deep beneath what was once the Central Terran Cultural Vault. The enemy's orbital bombardments had collapsed most of it, but somewhere under the stone and dust was what they had failed to destroy. The last archive. 2 minutes before they track us, Kira whispered into my comms. Her voice was brittle. She knew what was coming. We all did. I placed my palm against the black steel hatch, its surface humming faintly. A forgotten language rippled across it. Human glyphs merged with alien tech. Proof of the old alliances that the enemy had buried. The ghost codex of my neural link began to hum, its voice calm and steady. Authentication complete. Access granted. Prepare for memory transfer. The hatch split open. Inside, the chamber pulsed with soft golden light. Hundreds of crystal-like data cores floated in suspension, each one a living thread of our past. Not just facts, experiences. You could touch one and feel the laughter of a wedding you never attended, the pain of a soldier on a battlefield you never saw, the heartbeat of a child who lived a century before you were born. It was all here, our stolen history. Kira's voice cracked over the comms. You got 90 seconds. I stepped forward and connected the neural uplink. The flood hit instantly. Every moment, every life, Every war, every triumph, they all poured into me. My skull felt like it was going to fracture under the weight of billions of voices. I wasn't just me anymore. I was humanity. But that's when the alarm screamed. The enemy had arrived. 300-class warforms dropped to the fractured roof, each the size of a building, their armor blacker than the void. They were built for one purpose: to erase survivors, to finish the deletion. Kira's voice was sharp. "We can't hold them. Get out now." I didn't move, because this wasn't about escape anymore. I ripped the uplink from the console and fed it straight into my combat rig. The archive's memories didn't just tell me who we were. They told me how we fought. Every battle tactic, every desperate counterattack, every brutal victory humanity had ever carved from impossible odds was now in my veins. The hunters advanced, their weapons spinning up. I spoke, not with my own voice, but with a chorus of countless human spirits inside me. "You deleted our history. You thought it would erase us. But we are our history. And now you face all of us." The first hunter lunged. I met it head on. What followed wasn't a fight. It was a reckoning. I moved with the fury of soldiers from 1,000 wars, the precision of assassins who had ended empires, the defiance of rebels who had stared down extinction and laughed. One by one, the hunters fell, their black shells shattering under the weight of every battle humanity had ever fought. When the last one hit the ground, I staggered forward, sparks running down my armor. My vision blurred, but my hand still held the uplink. Kira was at my side, hauling me up. "We have to move before reinforcements arrive." I looked back at the chamber. The archive was no longer floating. It was empty. Every memory was now inside me. We ran into the storm. Above us, the sky bled with the stolen fragments of our past. But now, they weren't just memories anymore. They were weapons. And the enemy was about to learn what happens when shadows stop hiding and start fighting back.